Back in the summer of 1995, I had a very up and close and very scary encounter with Bigfoot. It was in the early month of July on the North Fork of California's Great Feather River between the Porte and Quincy. It was in a very isolated part of the mountain hardly anyone ever went to. I'd just been laid off from my job at the time that I had for 3 years, and I decided to take a little time off. I wanted to take at least a month off before I went ahead and looked for a job the following month. At the time, I was staying with my brother and my sister-in-law, which they heavily supported my time off, which took a load off my shoulders. I was feeling a little guilty, if you know what I mean. During my short month break, I wanted to get in some good hiking, which I love to do, and do me some fishing. Once that was decided, I grabbed my two canine friends and we headed out. We headed out towards a place of the Northern California area. We headed towards the little town of Quincy, which I personally knew the area very well. I knew of some good hiking spots and definitely some good camping areas. Before going up, my buddy Robert gave me specific directions to a trail that I've never even heard of, but it would take me quite deep into the mountain. It was going to take a bit of a hike to get there, but it's not like I was in any time constraints, and plus, I've never been there, so hey, we headed out. Plus, it was secluded enough for me to just decompress and unwind from my job life, my everyday work life, and before I jump back into the everyday grind of work life again. The specific part of the river I was journeying into would take some time to get there. It would take me 3 days to hike back into and 4 days out. There is a very little traffic, if at any at all, in this section of the wilderness, which is exactly what the doctor ordered. But in the midst of the excitement, I didn't expect for me and my poor two dogs to live quite an unnerving experience that would affect us for the rest of our lives. After a few days of hiking back and taking our times and playing with my dogs along the way and let them swim and chase sticks, we finally reached that part of the river called North Fork, where the Yuba River and the Feather River connected, a place called Middle Fork. I found a nice little spot near a tree line that I could tie my food up in a tree where my dogs and whatever wildlife couldn't get into. I placed my pack down next to my gear and started the afternoon perfect. I went ahead and hit a little bit of fishing. What a beautiful afternoon to spend in this beautiful river and relax and put the stress of everyday life behind me. As it got later, I made camp and cooked a few trout that I caught that afternoon. Staring into my fire, I was just memorized by the flickering of the flames, pondering with all excitement and the possibilities of my future to come. I was sipping a little JD out of my flask, and that just made the evening perfect. My friend Robert wasn't joking about the serenity of the place. It was absolute paradise. As it got later, the campfire was still burning lightly, and I was getting a little tired, so I decided to turn in early. It was about 9 p.m., and the fire was now just smoldering, and I felt safe enough not to put any water on it, so I just let it go. I climbed into my tent and laid down on top of my bedroll and let my dogs run around like usual. They're always good at staying close to the camp and definitely alerted me if anything was coming around. Plus, there was no one else around they could annoy. I began to doze off, and listening to the sound of the crickets was just harmonic. That made my eyes heavier, and I was just gently falling deeply into the other side of sleep. After a while, I suddenly woke up, kind of like as if one would, as if in a dream, as if they were falling. I was shaken awake. I'm sure you know that feeling. I don't know if those are just normal human instincts or something like that, but I can't tell. Once I immediately woke up, there's something terribly wrong. It was off. Something just seemed wrong around my camp. I couldn't really put my finger on it, but I just felt there was something off. It was dead quiet, and I didn't hear the sounds of the crickets anymore. Nothing. About 10 seconds later, my dogs came racing into my tent, whining and shaking with pure fear. Normally, they're very aggressive dogs. Not mean or anything, but they would bark or let me know if anything was around the camp, if it was close. One of them alone was a 95-pound pit bull, so you can understand my shock and concern at the moment. Knowing they both ran in my tent, looking for my protection, that scared me. It scared me senseless. I grabbed my rifle and pistol, along with my flashlight, and stepped outside my tent. I couldn't see anything out there at the time, since it was dark. And on top of that, I had that scary movie-like sensation of being watched, which was quite unnerving enough. I hated that feeling. Getting over the fact of, okay, I'm being watched. I grabbed some firewood. I threw it back onto the embers left from the fire. Then, about 10 feet, in the darkness of the woods beyond the glow of the fire, I heard something. I heard some very heavy footsteps coming from the right side of me. There was also some very strange odor, kind of like a cross between a skunk and something that's been dead for a week or so. This thing ended up just snapping branches and circling my camp for the whole night. Nothing more. Sitting there, in fear, feeding the fire, wondering if this thing was just going to rush out and decide to rip me into shreds, was nightmarish. I'm not going to lie. All the while, my dog's hiding in my tent, waiting for the first of light to come. This wasn't fun dealing with alone. Finally, after what seemed like eternity, first light came, and immediately I packed my stuff up and started my long hike back. It was a long hike, and I was ready to go. Sorry to find out that I wasn't going alone. This thing followed me almost the entire way back. I couldn't hear always the thing walking around, but at night, as I rested in my camp, I heard the thing every night circling my camp, and not to mention that lingering, god-awful stench. I even saw it through the woods once, about 70 yards away from me, through the trees, taking almost a parallel trail to me as if making sure I leave its territory. Okay, man, I'm leaving. I thought that the whole way. I never took a shot at it with my rifle, though. I don't believe in killing things for just the sport. Even as a kid, my dad taught me while hunting that shooting something when you don't need it is killing, and killing when you need it, that's hunting. About a day and a half before I reached my truck, I didn't feel this thing was following me anymore, and the smell was gone. I felt my dogs were in a bit of a shock. This experience was quite a bit for them. I knew they were in shock from their lack of eating and their shivering as if it was cold. I knew I was in shock too, and I just had that gut feeling that we left at the right time, or else I don't think it would have ended up very well for any of us. We just weren't welcome there. I never went back. I'll never go back to that place unless you guys want to go ahead, and anyone out there would love to go on an expedition there. Something, sometime, anything. But as long as I'm not alone, I'll never go alone again. If there's people there, I'll be there, but never alone. That would just be pure insanity, considering me going there alone again. Making that twice happen, I'm not down for that. Thanks, Travis. I wanted to leave my comments towards the end there. Travis, thanks for leaving that message. Thanks for giving me that story. If you can, I want more info on the end. That was a little blurry at the end, about being there alone. You would or you wouldn't. But either way, the story, Quincy is actually quite close to me. So if you can please get a hold of me, I would be more than happy to go up there with you. I know it's been years, but I would be more than happy to go up there with you if you live close still. I know buddies that would be more than happy to go up there with you. So please get a hold of me. Maybe this summer we can make a trip, make it happen, because I am super curious about this. I want this to happen to me. I'm jealous, so please get a hold of me. I'll go up there with you. Let's make it happen. Other than that, also I want to go ahead and thank John for being last month's winner. You're awesome. Thank you for being a subscriber. So as long as you subscribe, you might be next month's winner. But with that being said, guys, thanks for listening to Travis's story. Again, Travis, if you're listening, please clear up the end of that story. The way you worded it was a little off. So please get a hold of me, and I would love to go up there with you, man. All right, you guys. Have a good night.